Hey Armand, super nice
Maja.
to see you.
Thanks
Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks for the invitation.
So you were born in Cameroon in '88 and then came to Germany as a teenager.
Indeed, yeah, I came to Germany when I was 12. It was in 2000. That's when I moved from Cameroon, from Douala, which is a city with about 4 million people. Moved directly to Halle an der Saale, which is a small city in eastern part of Germany with, say, 250,000 a population of 250,000 people.
Okay, but what's the background? I remember you telling me that your mom and dad both doctors, they met in Cameroon, and then you came about,
Indeed.
and then you guys stayed for a while.
Indeed, yeah. The nice thing about the reason why I'm here in Germany is actually it's all about love.
Isn't it true for all of us, though?
I'm not trying to be romantic here, but it's actually a love story. So basically my dad, which is a guy from Leipzig, he went to Cameroon back in 1992, and that's where he met my mom back in the days. He was spending 1 year there, and my mom was a young student in medicine over there. That's how they met. And then after the year, he went back to Germany, and my mom went for studies to Russia. She studied in Russia. And over the time, they stay in touch. And then finally, when she graduated, she moved over to Germany. And I was, from 92 to 98, to 2000, I was in Cameroon. And then later, I joined them as well here in Germany.
So how was it growing up with your grandparents in Cameroon in so early 90s? After all of the political strife, and then there was an economic crisis, as far as I remember.
Indeed, indeed. It was, looking back, I had a very nice childhood, to be honest. My grandparents were great. They were really taking care of me. But, you know, thinking back right now, of course it was difficult because Cameroon was back there, was a poor country, and it's still the case. So I actually have a lot of memories and experiences from my childhood that actually made me the person I am today. Part of them are actually the reason why I'm politically engaged, you know. So in the 90s, that's the time where you had the World Bank and the IMF doing all the program all over Africa and so on. And that's the time also where you have the globalization. So basically all these implications actually had a real life impact on my life. And that's also part of the reason why I became politically engaged.
Okay, but what were those experiences? I mean, you are a son of two presumably quite well-off doctors, being taken care of by your grandparents as a child while your parents were working. So what were those experiences like?
True, and there are a couple of moments of truth, I would like to call them. Momente der Wahrheit, as we say in German. For example, when I was going to school, I had several classmates who had actually to drop out of school to help their parents, you know. So just from one day to another, you will have your friends not coming to school anymore, not because they are not smart, not because they don't want to study, but just basically because the parents didn't have the money to pay the school fees, or because they just had to support their parents, you know, on the market or stuff like this, you know. Back in the days, I actually didn't realize what happened, right? But growing up, it was always somehow there. You know, it was always somehow there that you actually know people that are quite talented, that are intelligent, you know, that actually want to study, but they actually never had the same chance as I had, for example, you know. So that's the reason why very early on I became very political. And until today, they're actually a source of motivation, you know. And it's not only in Cameroon, we also do have it here in Germany or elsewhere, right? So I feel like I've been quite lucky, to be honest, because my parents had the financial needs to support me, but I feel like it's also my responsibility until nowadays to also fight for other people and make sure they have the equal access to, you know, to schools and to all the kind of basic things we need.
Speaking of education, I remember you telling me when you came over to Germany, despite the fact that your parents were highly educated, despite the fact that I'm assuming you had decent grades back in Cameroon.
I did.
You almost landed in Hauptschule, which is a faith a lot of immigrant children share to this day.
Unfortunately, yes, and also, as you just said, right, I was just moving from grade 7 to grade 8. I had quite decent grades. And we went to the Schulamt. The only challenge was that I didn't speak German at all, right? I arrived here, couldn't speak a word. I just knew like 2 or 3 words in German. But except that, I was quite young. I was motivated, and I wanted to study. I wanted to get to know people and stuff like that. But basically, the Schulamt wanted to put me in grade 4 or grade 5.
So basically, backed into Grundschule at what is an age of a 14 or 13-year-old boy, right?
Yeah. Just imagine,
go back
right?
to the 9-year-olds.
Just imagine, yeah.
Yeah, that's shocking.
And luckily, my parents were actually there, and they said, no, we're not going to do that. So
luckily, your parents were educated and said no.
Yeah. So they took me from school to school until we actually find a gymnasium. We said, okay, we're just going to try it out. Let's see how this is going to go. And ever since then, I've been asking myself, what would have happened to me if my parents were insecure or whatsoever and would have said, okay, he should go to grade 4 or grade 5?
Well, you would not go to Johns Hopkins, that's for sure.
Indeed. And probably I wouldn't be sitting here, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So this is also another moment in my life where I actually realized it's necessary, to get socially and politically engaged and not only fight for yourself, but also for other people.
Yeah, those less fortunate. To come from certain families that set us all up for life. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think democracy. The idea of democracy is great, but I'm yet to see a society that truly gives everybody the same chance, at least chance of opportunity, at least if not of outcome.
Yeah,
for sure. Indeed. All right, so then you managed to go to get into a gymnasium. I'm assuming you finished it quite successfully. And what happened then?
Yeah, so after the gymnasium, I started studying.
What did you study?
I started with politics.
Where?
In Halle. I started in Halle with politics and ended my politics degree in France, in Paris. And I went on studying again and again and again. So at the end, I have 4 university degrees. I was young and I was very curious, so that's why I ended up studying so much. And I was lucky to study not only in Germany, but also in Paris, in the States, in Europe, in Italy, in the UK. And same story, right? Even at university, or even when I was living in China and so on, I always met people, talented, intelligent, motivated, but they didn't have the same chance, right? And on the one hand, I've always been very thankful and very happy about the things that I had, but on the other hand, I also kind of feel not ashamed, but kind of feel bad and guilty about me having all these opportunities, right, and other people not having them. So I told myself the least that I can do is make sure that I'm always the best in what I'm doing, and I also fight for other people so that they can get the same chance, right?
No, absolutely. Tell me, how was the year at Hopkins? I mean, the college and the campus is definitely not in a very affluent area, to say the least.
No, it's not.
How did that go for you after Paris and all of the European saga, and then you land basically in the ghetto?
No, it was nice. The great thing about American schools is that, let's say, the community life. It's awesome, right?
It's super.
You know that, yeah.
Best ever.
Indeed. So I had a great time with friends from all over the world, from Europe, from the United States, and so on. And we had a lot of fun.
And I'm assuming even more studying, right? To get that GPA where it's supposed to be.
Absolutely, yeah. And I learned a lot about the American system, right? Where you have the professors, the lecturers actually being there for you.
Yeah.
Just like the ratio of students to professors, basically, like, it's amazing. It's not, I mean, I like our German system as well, but it was a very nice experience, to get a lot of practitioners coming over, and it was more, let's say, practical training than our German university, which tend to be more theoretical.
Spoken like a true politician, yes.
No, but that's how it is, right?
Yes, in the States, higher education, if you're lucky to land in the, well, lucky and good enough to land in the top 20, it really puts a stress on the individual student and really pushes you up.
Term paper every, like homeworks every other week.
Exactly, yeah. Try the undergraduate, it's every week. But it's, I remember.
You remember?
It's very cool.
Yeah.
No, that's super. But tell me something then. So you go from Germany, you go to Paris, and then from Paris you go to the States and the UK and China. How does social democracy fit into all of that? I mean, I understand giving people equal chances, or at least trying to build a society where all of the children, no matter who their parents are, would have at least a go at it. That I firmly believe. Social democracy, on the other hand, is so much more than that. So how does a man who currently works at one of the biggest companies in Frankfurt and is a business consultant, how does that guy end up in the Social Democratic Party?
It's a good question, Maja. It's a very good question. Well, first of all, like, when I decided to join the SPD, it was back in 2009, 2010. It was basically based on, let's say, on the history of the political party, right? I was politically interested, and I asked myself, when I look at the different ideas of the political parties in Germany, which one does correspond the best with my personal, ideas? I wasn't really looking at day-to-day politics, because obviously this can change over time. I was rather looking at the roots and the origins, right? And I just figured out, for me, it was the SPD, to be honest. It was the SPD because of so many values, like, freedom, like solidarity, like social justice. These are actually the core values of the Social Democratic Party. And also, that's how I felt like these are definitely values that are important to me. That's the first part. But even today, I actually never regret that, to be honest. Until today, I never regret that. There are moments that are very difficult when I look at the news and I see sometimes what we're doing. I'm actually asking myself, what the hell is going on here? But all in all, I actually never regretted being a member of the SPD. And even today, coming back to your question, I feel like being multicultural, being international, and also working for a consulting company in Germany, I think it goes along with also being a member of the SPD, right? So at the end of the day, my personal belief is we can still have an economy, for example, where people or where businesses are going to make profit, but not basically on the back of the people working there, right? So I feel like the balance can still be reached. So for me, this is not contradictory to be working for a big corporate, and at the same time also trying to achieve more social justice politically, right?
How do you see social democracy in Germany in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years, especially looking at the fact that you and I live in Frankfurt, we're of a certain generation, we make a certain amount of money that is far above your average.
Absolutely.
So how do you see, people complain, taxes that might be going up, hopefully not. How do you see that playing out in the next 5 to 10 years, such that we as people who live in Germany and German society in general doesn't lose the high flyers, but still has a social net, the one that you would like to keep?
Yeah, great question, Maja. You have the best questions here tonight. Well, at the end of the day, I believe we still need social democracy, right? I know the results of the last years have been quite disappointing for us, right? But I still believe there's a room out there for us. When you look at all the global trends going on, globally, but also here in Germany and also especially in Frankfurt, you see a couple of trends towards digitization, right? That's probably one of the biggest trends we're currently facing, but also climate change and so on. And my response, and this is where we as SPD are fundamentally different than the CDU or to the CDU. I believe that in order to manage all the trends that we are seeing and all the changes that are coming and all the challenges ahead, you actually need a strong state. You need a strong state to manage this process, right? Let's talk about digitization. We're talking about a lot of jobs are totally going to change, even going to disappear within the next 5 to 10 years,
right? Yeah, they won't be there. Yeah.
And people from the FDP, here I'm going to do some bashing, or from the CDU, are trying to explain us that the market is just going to take care of it. The invisible hand of the market is going to solve it. Sorry, I don't believe it. And if you look back, it's not working anymore. I would even question if it has worked ever, right? I feel like in order to manage this structural change we're having, right, this transformation process we're facing right now, you actually need a state which is going to be investing a lot and making sure that we manage this process. Here in Frankfurt, we're talking about Flughafen. You have a lot of people working at the airport right now. A lot of them are actually in a very critical situation where they're thinking about their jobs. They have a fear about losing their jobs. If you ask someone for the CDU or from the FDP, they're probably going to tell you, oh, don't you worry, they would have to re-adapt, and then hopefully in 2 or 5 years, they're going to find another job. I don't believe this is just going to happen like that. I say we as a state, we need to have established a program which is going to make sure that you re-educate these people working at the airport right now in order to make sure that in 1 year, in 2 years, they're actually ready for the jobs of the future. Just to give you a brief example. And this is a fundamental difference between us as SPD and the right parties, right? And I believe we're still needed. Yeah.
Okay, but do you really believe that only the state is able to govern? Do you not think, and again, here I'm asking you as a business consultant, do you not think that the responsibility lies on the individual?
Yes, I do agree. I partly agree, right? Why I'm underlining the importance of the state here is because I'm engaged in politics. I'm running for office, so that's why I felt the need to emphasize on the importance of the state. But at the end of the day, it's obvious, right? We need the state, we need civil society, and you're actually seeing a lot of civil society movement, actually asking to be involved or to be part of the discussion. Which is really good. We need the economy, but we also need the people to take responsibility for themselves, right? Totally agree. But I believe people are different, right? They're gifted with different talents. And I think it's kind of an illusion to believe everyone is capable to make the right decision for themselves. I'm not saying the state is going to take decision for all the people, but if you see my philosophical point of view is at least you should have a state making sure that everyone has the same equal access to different kind of things, right? Equal access to education. At least there needs to be a minimum, right? At the end of the day, of course, I may decide, to study harder and then go further than other people, but there need to be some basic levels for all the people. That's probably the difference between I and someone from the FDP, for example, right? Let's talk about universal basic income. Personally, I'm not in favor of universal basic income because I don't believe it's fair and I don't believe it's social at the end. Universal basic income is the state just saying, I'm going to give the responsibility away to the people and let them decide what they're going to do with the money, right? And personally, I believe there are certain things that are actually fundamental to our life. They should be granted to everyone. Access to health, if you want it, yes or no, right? Access to education, same, So that's why I feel there should be certain, let's say, domains where the state has the primary responsibility. And that's how I see it.
I agree on access part. Access is one thing, but speaking about fundamental paycheck, basically for everybody, I think especially in Europe, and Germany is obviously the richest country in Europe, is sliding potentially to a big problem where it's not worth working for minimum wage if you get a handout. No? And how does that then propel people to try harder, to be better, to get up in the morning, if it's simply given? I agree with healthcare and education. I think every child in this country, up until age 18, should be taken care of, whether it's done by the state, hopefully it's done by the parents, right? But if the parents fail, and for whatever reason, there absolutely should be that social support. But for you and me, I think you and I are entitled to choices and consequences of those choices.
Maybe. But I totally agree. But at the end of the day, how to make a difference, right? We also have, let's say, also want to have a kind of equal treatment, right? So how are we going to differ and say, some people should have more freedom when it comes to them making their own decision and other less? That's where I just see the challenge, right?
Exactly, we shouldn't.
Exactly, we shouldn't, right?
We shouldn't.
Totally agree. Yeah,
we shouldn't.
Totally agree. We shouldn't. And so that's why I feel like maybe you personally, if you get, let's say, universal basic income, I don't know, 2,000 per month, I'm sure you would know how to start and how to invest your money and make proper use of it. And I'm sure you would continue working or pursuing your goals and stuff like this, right? But I don't know if this holds true for everyone. I don't know if this is true for everyone. And that's why I believe, instead of just giving 2,000 to everyone, let's be like, okay, I'm going to bribe you, I'm going to pay you. We should more have, let's say, access to culture and to museum and stuff for free. Let's say we should have kostenloser ÖPNV, public transportation should be free. We should continue with our system of free education, and we should also make sure that people that are doing formation, some people are doing the Ausbildung, and they're actually paying fees to do that Ausbildung, it should be for free, right? That's my perception of the society, right?
But you know it's never for free. You and I pay very high taxes.
Of course.
There is no free lunch. You know that very well. Yeah. So somebody will pay the bill. It's just in the end who and how high will it be.
True.
Yeah. And this is where I think there you and I disagree. Who should pay that bill and how should that be structured exactly? No. I agree with you on the parts of absolute protection for any minor, without a doubt. Adults, on the other hand, should have a little bit more, I guess, responsibility in my mind. But tell me something else.
Sure.
Next 5 years, where is Armand Zorn? What is he doing?
I don't know, to be honest. Currently, I'm running for our city council here in Frankfurt, and I'm also candidate for the German Bundestag, or one of the candidates within our nomination process within the SPD. So hopefully in 5 years, I'm MP. Trying to work hard for Frankfurt at the German Bundestag. Yeah.
Cool. And the business consulting?
And the business consulting will have to wait for a while. I think why being an MP is actually a very demanding and challenging job. So if this works out, I would like to focus on it for a couple of years, hopefully, and then afterwards, you know, I have a lot of interest, to be honest. So let's see where life is going to take me.
Armand, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.